Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Monday Movie Club. This is episode 2, and I'm your host, Kieran J.C. Bodkin. Today, we are going to be discussing an absurdist horror parody that focuses on our perceptions, both how we perceive others and how others perceive us. That movie is Tucker and Dale versus Evil. And here to talk...
Smart, and it is, but don't go into this movie expecting to be intellectually stimulated. It's really dumb.
Well, and there is our guest for the week. That is my good friend, one of my best friends, and my college roommate from sophomore year, John Blair. John, it's good to see you.
Hello. It's good
Virtually.
to be here, man. It's good to have a good excuse to talk to someone for an hour.
John, I like to open up these conversations by first just checking in and asking, how are you doing? Are you staying safe, healthy, and sane during quarantine?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I'm doing everything I can to stay active, stay creative, which mostly has been translating into a lot of D&D, a lot of reading other friends' works, a lot of trying to get those friends to put me in stuff that they make. Yeah. Overall, I've been doing okay. I'm in self-quarantine right now for 2 weeks because I did just get back from DC, so I need to make sure that I minimize contact while I'm here. But I'm staying healthy and good, and being back home was definitely really good for the mental sanity. Being able to just see my parents know that they were safe. Was nice.
Yeah, absolutely. When just before quarantine all really started, I was getting back from a trip that I had planned months in advance. And when I went, people weren't talking about it. It sort of escalated as I was down there. That's when Purell started selling out everywhere. And so when I got back, I was like, all right, I'll self-quarantine out on Long Island instead of Brooklyn. And it's just sort of turned into
This is where I am now. Yeah.
So, John, a question I've been asking all of my guests when they come on here is, what is the first movie you remember seeing in theaters?
First movie I remember seeing in theaters. This is permanent, right? This is going on the internet?
This is going on the YouTubes and will be posted and shared on social media. Yes.
Fantastic. Shit, and I have to tell the truth?
Yeah, don't worry. My first guest, the guest last week, Rosie Dean, her first movie was Stuart Little 2. So
Man.
we all have different movie experiences.
My first movie that I remember seeing in theaters, High School Musical 2.
Wait, that had a theatrical release?
Yes, it did!
Oh my God.
It did at the AMC down the street from me in Georgetown.
Dude, I don't know. Okay, really? Okay, funny thing I've noticed about my first movie I remember seeing, Rosie's first movie she remembers seeing, and yours, all of them are sequels. All of them.
Yeah, right?
My first movie I remember seeing is Chamber of Secrets, so that's the second Harry Potter. Hers, Stuart Little 2. Yours is the best High School Musical movie, the second one.
Yes, no, it is true. It is true. I think that was really when I came into my bisexuality. I didn't realize at the time, but when Zac Efron just got out of that pool.
Another question that I've been asking people is, so High School Musical 2 obviously had a large impact on you. If it helped you,
I mean, it didn't. It didn't. I don't want that to be going out there.
On the record that John Blair's, at least his second biggest influence is High School Musical 2.
Yes, no. First biggest influence, Lord of the Rings. Second biggest influence, High School Musical 2. Definitely.
Lord of the Rings. So that was, my question was going to be, if there's a movie from your childhood that stands above the others as leaving an impact on your taste, would that be Lord of the Rings?
Ooh, actually, no. I would say Lord of the Rings certainly is my favorite franchise, I suppose. It's definitely not Lord of the Rings. I mean, definitely Lord of the Rings is my favorite franchise, but the movie that has had the most impact on me from my childhood, and I mean, it's still to this day my favorite movie, is Princess Mononoke.
I knew you were going to say. I feel like you had told me that when we were roommates, and I was like, it's probably going to be, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's literally since my childhood, that movie has been, it's my favorite movie of all time, hands down, hands down. I've watched it dozens of times, and every single time I watch it, I find something new. Like I make a point to watch it at least.
Oh
And
yeah,
I just
absolutely.
turned 23, so I suppose if I started watching it when I was 6, that's the first time I can remember watching it. My brother showed
Like
me.
at least 17 times.
Yeah, I've seen it at least 17 times. Because I've definitely watched it multiple times. Yeah, yikes.
Let's jump straight into Tucker and Dale versus Evil, okay?
How do you want to start this, man?
Well, the way I've been starting this is I've asked my guests a fairly simple question. As viewers at home probably know by now, the guest that I have on is the one who chooses the movie. So,
Mm-hmm.
John, why did you choose this movie?
Several reasons. First of all, I think that it is a movie that very few people have seen, but that many more people should see. I think that this movie is the type of movie that would like have a cult following if more people knew about it. You
Hmm.
know, like that's one of the main reasons, I guess. But also, it's just fun. It's just a really fun movie that just pokes fun at like a genre that I don't really particularly like. I've really never enjoyed, and I don't mean that as like a broad statement like I don't like horror films. That's not true at all. Like I loved Get Out. I loved Parasite. I remember loving the oh Jesus, The Grudge when I was a kid.
Hmm.
So I like some horror shit, but for the most part, I just can't stomach it. And Tucker and Dale just like perfectly encapsulated why. Like it did such a good job of just showing how ridiculous it all was.
So I think I'm actually going to jump ahead to a question that I had packed in my back pocket for later.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just since we're on the topic of horror parodies, horror parody is kind of like this long running tradition in the film world.
Yeah, scary
Um,
movie,
Scary movie. I
Goosebumps.
mean, you can even count like Scream as
Yeah,
kind of a parody. So when you look at like the past couple of decades of horror movie parodies, like a few stand out. You have Scream, as you said, like Scary Movie, Shaun of the Dead, Tucker and Dale versus Evil, and like Cabin in the Woods are kind of like the ones that
yeah.
stand out. Where do you feel like Tucker and Dale falls in terms of like the horror movie parody pantheon? Like, what does Tucker and Dale bring to the table that some of those other films I mentioned don't?
Um, well, first of all, it has Alan Tudyk in it, which like do any of those other movies have Alan Tudyk in it? Maybe they do. I don't know. I haven't researched them. But
No, very fair. I actually, one of my top notes about what makes the movie great is Alan Tudyk is in it.
yes, he's in it and he's excellent as he always is. And also I really think that it doesn't kind of, I mean, it does beat you over the head a little bit with this idea. It's like, this is ridiculous and entirely avoidable. But the message of the story, I feel like deep down, is this could all be avoided if you guys had just talked to each other and figured this out instead of making assumptions about each other and gutting throats, which I feel like is a unique part of this movie.
It's funny if you look at the timeline. You have Shaun of the Dead first, then Tucker and Dale, then Cabin in the Woods. Tucker and Dale does feel like this bridge gap because Shaun of the Dead, to a certain extent, while the zombie nature of the movie was unavoidable, their peril was. They
Yes,
could have stayed home.
yes. They did not have to put themselves in that situation.
Wow,
However, there
it's
were
crazy to
zombies.
have a
Like,
movie that the scientists and everyone is telling people to stay home and they endangered themselves and others by leaving their self quarantines.
yeah. Hey, world. Movies are important.
Hey, world, stay home.
Please.
Thank you. All right, now back
Stop,
to Tucker
stop.
and Dale. So the question I was going to originally lead off of, since this movie is all about perception, I think
Mhm.
it's only fitting to ask you, has revisiting this movie changed the way you perceive it in any way? Is there anything new that sticks out to you as you revisit it that might have gone over someone like my head who just watched it for the first time yesterday?
I mean, certainly, I would be lying if I said I haven't seen this movie several times. So every time I watch it, I mean, every time I watch it, I find something new, but the revelations like to have begun to slow down, let's say.
For sure.
Like every time I watch it, I'll be like, oh shit, I didn't notice that before. But since I've seen it so many times at this point, I've seen it like at least 5 times, including the last time I saw it. So at this point, I'm kind of expecting everything coming. So when something does take me by surprise, it's usually like a minor detail.
Do you want to, John, real quick, give a spoiler-free, like, quick synopsis or like an elevator pitch to people about this movie that might have not watched it before watching this episode?
It's just it's about, oh no, I'm really fucking this up. This might be one of the bits you want to cut out of this. How do I,
You want a second take? You can
how
take
do you pitch it? Like, maybe you could help me.
All right.
I love it, but I don't know how to pitch it.
Okay. As a first-time viewer, I'll try to do a quick pitch of it. Tucker and Dale versus Evil is a horror parody comedy of errors in which you focus on two assumed killers who are being terrorized by the teen group who thinks they're being terrorized.
That's why you went to film.
Yeah, so let's talk about what makes this movie great. We've already mentioned Alan Tudyk, and my note here was that if you put Alan Tudyk in anything, you immediately elevate your movie. If it was a 6,
100%.
7. If it was
like,
a 7,
I want to model my own acting career after Alan.
Another thing that I think this movie does really well, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. I think the movie does a really good job of playing with like the tone and tension of the movie. Like they managed to keep the stakes really high, like kind of like how Shaun of the Dead is able to do the same thing. They keep the stakes really high, and you're worrying for Tucker and Dale and Allison, but also the same time where you're like tense and worried, you're like laughing at the absurdity of it all.
Yeah, no, it does a really, really good job of that. Like, I mean, when the first kid died by like impaling himself. Are we doing spoilers?
You should give a little spoiler warning before you do the spoiler. No,
all right, cut that bit out. So, spoiler warning: when the first kid dies by impaling himself on the that like uprooted tree while running away from Dale, who's like waving the chainsaw at the hornet's nest. He impales himself, and then they have this like incredible shot of like just him like reacting to the fact that there's like a tree in his chest, and then this wasp just flies down and lands on his nose, and he just goes, "Oh," and it's like, "Oh, he understands now," and that's what always happens. They always get it right before they beef it, and it really cuts the tension.
There's something interesting about that character because he, the whole time, while they're wearing, popped collars, frat boy stuff, he's actually wearing like a mechanic's outfit with his name on it, which I don't remember what it is. It's like Matt or Michael or something. Or Mitchell.
Yeah.
I think it's Mitchell. And he's parts. And he's the only one in the early stages of the movie that's kind of talking sense. He's like, maybe they're not. Maybe they took her in because she hurt herself.
Yeah. Yeah, like he's like, maybe they're people, and we can talk to them, and maybe this was all a big misunderstanding.
I have to wonder if they gave him that outfit to say that he, because there's a lot of stuff about like class and perception of different classes in this. He might be closer to Tucker and Dale in class, and therefore is not judging them off of looks instinctually like everyone else is.
Yeah, no, there's That's actually a really cool perception. I hadn't considered that before, actually. But yeah, no, I definitely think so. Looking back on it, he's the one who, um, he's definitely the one who's talking the most sense and is the most like the least extreme. Like he is the opposite end, other than like Ashley or Allison. Jesus Christ.
But Allison did even uh, judge them at first. She
No,
was
no, no.
just
That's not what I mean. It's like so. There's on the one hand you have like Chad, who's like the most extreme, and then on the
yeah,
other hand you have Allison, who's like,
yeah,
oh wait, okay, and he's like, I'd say the next person on that Allison to Chad scale.
yeah.
And yeah, it is interesting that they chose to dress like that, and he really he puts shit together a lot quicker. It's so good. It really heightens the tension, and then just like boom,
And
kills it.
kind of going off of that, one of the other things, like the third big thing to me that this movie does really well is it clearly is drawing from in like a lot of its influences in its humor is drawing on like slapstick comedy and silent films. Like I'm almost certain if you played that scene or like any of the other scenes where people are dying with like Buster Keaton or Charlie Chaplin music underneath it, it would perfectly work.
Oh yeah, that like the wood chipper scene,
Yeah, that
like the
alone.
wood chipper scene, that alone, just that like terrified like run and dive head first. That was like that would have made sense with like Charlie Chaplin music underneath it, especially when you take into account like all of the ridiculous visual gags that they do with blood. Oh, or my favorite one, the cop. Like when the cop comes in, leans on the thing, he's like, no, 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 ah, shit.
Yeah, I knew that was going to go down. I was like, there's no way someone doesn't end it. And as soon as that guy was going in, I was like, that's it. That's
Yeah,
the
he's
end.
dead. He's dead. The moment he
And
walks in the house.
yeah, and like it's kind of funny that they set that up too. And I agree with them. Like there's the moment where they think maybe we should call the cops. Now, the teens, when they said that, they definitely should have, and it was dumb for of Chad. I mean, Chad's the worst.
Yeah,
To
no,
not
Chad
do
is
it.
the worst.
But Tucker and Dale, by the time they realize weird is happening, they're right. Like if they were to have called the cops,
Oh yeah,
no one
like
would believe them.
golly gee, officer, I've had a doozy of a day.
And the guy who plays Dale too, I think, does a really good job of portraying this like sweet, just full of
Oh
emotion.
my, just like this big lovable idiot, but who looks
Not an
super
idiot.
scary. Oh no, no, sorry, not an idiot. Like goofball. Sorry,
Goofball for
goofball.
sure. He is. He is.
He's smart as a whip. He remembers everything. He like puts together. He just hasn't been like educated, which I think the movie does a really good job of really underlining the difference between intelligence and education. Dale really is just a person like the public system has failed because he's
As Allison says, there's a
incredibly
difference between intellect and education. Yeah.
yeah. And anyway, sorry, I'll get off my soapbox now.
I think if there's another big influence on this movie, it's that buddy comedy thing. And there is that trope that you see happen a lot where there's the, skinny, smooth talking friend and then the chubbier goofball kind of idiot friend.
Kind of heart of gold, yeah.
Heart of gold. One thing though that this movie does flip with that dynamic is a lot of the times the chubby goofball friend is the one making all these mistakes and is the butt of like physical jokes. However, in this movie, that is largely flipped. Alan
Oh
Tudyk's
yeah, no, like a
character-
lot of the physical stuff happens to Tucker. Like the bee swarm, like when he needs to get the stuff pulled out of his face. When he oh my god, the wood chipper scene. The just oh my god, what was the except that one. There was the one in the beginning where they met the cop, where like Dale got his shirt stuck. That was both of them. That was both of them. That was both of them. They were both complicit in that not quite a blowjob.
The one thing I don't understand about the opening of that is how did his shirt come undone?
Well, the buttons got stuck. There was there was some dialogue there. It was like, shit, my buttons are stuck. And then he comes up and they all rip
I
off.
know they said that. I know they said my buttons got stuck, but I can't
You just,
visualize
you can't.
where all of his
Physics.
buttons
Yeah.
got stuck and all of them came open. I cannot physically visualize that.
Maybe maybe it was like it got stuck on the inside of one of the loops and it like got stuck on something and he just didn't realize. So when it came up, he ripped all buttons off. Just speculating.
Maybe. I mean,
Don't ruin the comedy, man. Suspend your disbelief.
I know. At the end of the day, I don't really care how it happened. It was a funny little thing. Kind of reminds me of that one scene in Dumb and Dumber. Have you ever seen Dumb and Dumber?
Yeah.
Yeah, the scene where he's peeing into the bottles and then they think they're drunk driving.
Oh my God, yeah. Well, I loved that they kind of poked fun at that a little bit actually, because like both Tucker and Dale were drinking while they were driving. And they when the cop pulled them over, they were like they thought that they were going to get busted for drunk driving, but it turned out to be something that the cop saw as way worse.
Speaking of drinking when you shouldn't be drinking, at the end of the movie.
Oh my God, the bendy straw.
Well, I was more thinking about Tucker saying that he is high on
prescription medication.
On prescription medication because he's in extreme pain. And then they crack open a Pabst Blue Ribbon.
Yeah, no, that's what I was talking about. Because then he has the bendy straw that he puts in the Pabst Blue Ribbon.
Oh, right.
Favorite sipping to max. It's great.
But you really
shouldn't drink. Okay. PSA time for all of you out there. Don't do prescription medication and drink. Just don't combine them. It's probably a bad idea. You might die.
I mean,
don't do it. They should just make a statement. Try not to drink in the hospital. I feel like that's good advice. I don't know if I'm backed up by science there or if that's what the CDC recommends, but I feel like it's just generally smart.
I feel like alcohol is probably not allowed in hospitals. I mean, I would.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so one thing that Tucker and Dale is definitely misleading you on is the ability to get beer into a hospital.
Well,
don't do it. It's bad for your friend.
That could happen because it's, they're not well off economically, and there's a good chance that they don't have good health care, so they're probably not at the best hospital. You add all those things together.
I do think you're overthinking.
Well, am I though? Because
yes, Kieran,
he gets a finger added to himself that is clearly not his own. A doctor would have picked that up if they were anything qualified. And have you ever heard of graft versus host? He is screwed.
No. Okay, yes, there are those intellectual layers. There are those layers to it. I just like it. You're just making it sound much smarter than it is. Like it's a smart movie. It is, but I really want to drive home to anyone who might watch this. This is a super stupid movie. Like, do not go into this movie expecting to be like intellectually blown away because it is smart and has many layers, but it is dumb comedy to its core.
It is.
It's great.
It is. It's very much in the same ballpark as Dumb and Dumber, as I mentioned that movie earlier. Like Dumb and Dumber has some of the wittiest dialogue in any movie, but it's also just stupid.
It's so dumb. It's like the jokes like in this movie are just so dumb. Like, but they're great. They're great because they're dumb. And there are a lot of like incredibly intelligent like things about this movie. Like the way that it parodies comedy is so good, and the social commentary is excellent. But it is a stupid fun movie at its core, and I love it. It's like, hey, we have these messages we're gonna give to people, but it's gonna be a joy to watch the whole way. And it really is.
Yeah, it absolutely is a joy of a movie to watch. And for those of you at home who haven't seen it before watching this episode, I really recommend you go give it a watch. It is currently free on Netflix. If you don't have Netflix, it's there to rent for like $3 on YouTube. And John, I just want to thank you so much for joining us. And thank you for everyone at home who joined in on this chat with us. Be sure to leave a comment below. Let us know what you think about this movie. Also, what's your favorite horror parody movie? Personally, mine is Shaun of the Dead. John, I don't know if you... Yeah.
I love Shaun of the Dead. I
Yeah.
love the whole Cornetto trilogy.
Oh,
And
Cornetto.
the World's End is fine, but the first two are amazing.
Oh,
okay, that is a different conversation. That is a different conversation.
It is.
All right. Thank you so much for having me on. It's really been a pleasure.
Absolutely. And everyone be sure to hit like and subscribe, and be extra sure to join us next Monday, where we're going to be jumping into the strange world of anime with a movie that I have yet to see called Red Line.
Ooh, you're in for a treat. It's another movie. It's
sure
great.
I am. Thanks, everyone. See you next week. Bye.
Bye, Mom.